What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer. And as you can tell, back home for the holidays, so background's going to be a bit different. Gonna have to figure something out. But yeah, right now I want to talk about the MLS College Showcase that just happened as part of, I guess, MLS Draft coverage, because nobody does that. And I mean, it's not something like truly exciting, but it's definitely something interesting. We get to see a good amount of prospects come through there. So yeah, I want to be talking about that for a little bit. So this is the MLS College Showcase. It's basically the MLS Combine, and it's actually held at the same time as the College Cup was. So the players that I talked about previously, Clemson, Washington, Georgetown, Notre Dame, all of them are not included in this. So yeah, just getting into these guys. There's about 45-ish players, 22-ish. I'll get into that later. Are eligible for the USA team. Again, some people might be eventually, might not be eventually, are right now, aren't right now. I'm not too sure. I'm only going to be talking about the guys who I'm sure have the potential to play for the national team. And just something to mention that this isn't every college player, not on those teams, because there are guys who I see who are pretty good, like Pedro Fonseca, Luke Bezerra, DeAndre Kerr, who are a few standouts who just aren't on this list at all. And maybe there aren't even homegrown players on this because because you can get homegrown players straight out of college teams. Someone like a Dante Huckabee, maybe he's on that list. But yeah, these are just some players I want to talk about. And yeah, going to get right into it. So starting things off, we got Lucas Bartlett. He is a sixth-year senior, and I'm going to be going by years instead of what class they are because eligibility has been really weird. So you could have freshmen who are in their third year and stuff like that. So he's a sixth-year player. He's a center back out of St. John's. And as a sixth-year player, very old. I can't imagine his ceiling being that high. But I did get to watch a good bit of St. John's, and he was a noticeable calming presence in the team. And he is a decent player, but again, at his age, he wasn't even truly a standout player, but still solid guy. But I can't see him doing too much with the national team. Next guy, we got Simon Becker. He's a fourth-year player. Again, due to eligibility, he's probably listed as a junior, but I'm just saying it, fourth year. He was a first-team All-American, one of the best players in the country, and looking very good. He played for the USA Youth National teams, and he's from St. Louis University. We got a lot of St. Louis guys. We're going to get into that a bit later, but yeah, right now, very good player in both the short term, and we can definitely see how well it translates. He's looked very good for a strong St. Louis team, one of the top strikers in the nation, and man, I definitely want to see how he does in the MLS. He could be a very good player, and someone definitely to keep an eye on. Next guy I want to talk about is Abubakar Kamara. He's a second-year player out of Louisville, another guy who was part of youth national teams when he was at the Philadelphia Union. Maybe somebody could even be a homegrown. I mean, the Union could use a striker or two right now. But man, he's looked very good amongst a talented Louisville team. He was putting in a lot of goals in the ACC, which is a very strong conference. And yeah, man, really strong physical player. He has good finishing ability as well. Man, not too sure about the technical side, but he could be a very solid player for the national team, or probably not the national team in the short term, but for the MLS. And definitely you could see those talents just get fostered. Maybe becomes better technically, I'm not sure, but he's someone I definitely want to keep an eye on. Next player is Roman Celentano. He's a third-year player, second-team All-American goalkeeper from Indiana University. And man, probably the top U.S. goalkeeper in the nation, a very solid shot stopper. I could see getting MLS time. Now with goalkeepers, it's kind of hard to gauge because you don't know how well the ability with the feet translates to an MLS level or even then a national team level. But at Indiana, he looked very good, and he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Probably the top goalkeeper of this class out of Americans. Next, we got Eric Centano. He's a freshman. He's listed as a right back / winger. I'm not too sure which he is. He's a freshman. He played on some USA Youth National teams. He comes out of Pacific University. And I went over a lot of freshmen, and I did not see him listed at all. So there's another guy later who's like that, but he's come out of nowhere. He's been very good. He's been picking up a lot of goals, a lot of assists at a young age in a position where you don't really expect to get that. And if he can continue to do well as that attacking right back, he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. And I mean, Joe Skelly's kind of got that position locked down if Serginho Dest gets moved to left back or right winger. So, I mean, it's a very crowded position, but still, he looks to be a talented player and someone definitely to keep an eye on. He's from Sacramento's youth academy, and he spent some time at FC Dallas, so yeah, he looks like a great pickup right now. Next guy I talk about is Acai Easley. He's a fourth-year player. He comes from Seattle, but he spent some time training in Europe as well. So he's from Grand Canyon University. He's a center back, and I'm honestly, this guy is really tough to gauge. He stayed in school for a really long time. Like, he hasn't gone out early, which you'd expect maybe he could have. Seattle's got a pretty good youth system, so you would expect him to, if he was pretty good, they'd recall him as a homegrown player. And with his time in Europe, you'd maybe expect him to make an All-American team. He's improved every year, and that's a positive. And he played with Portland's U23s over the summer, so maybe that's where he ends up. But again, a tough player to gauge. Yeah, I'm not too sure about him. Next, we got Herbert Endley. Yeah, Herbert Endley. He's a third-year player, forward out of Indiana University. I think he's been playing out wide, can play up top as well. And this is a pretty weird choice, which I'm going to get into a couple of these guys later, but I watched a good amount of Indiana this year, and I probably rate like Luke Bazera and Samuel Sarver, two forwards from Indiana, higher than him. They've been better scorers. I feel like they've got better potential, and I'm honestly not too sure about him in this position. So one thing I'm wondering is maybe he's got some physical tools that can translate to the next level that I just haven't gotten to see, which, again, is tough. There's not too much data on these players. We don't have a 40-yard dash time for these guys. But, again, not too sure about him, but he might be here for a reason. But that's all I can really say about him. Next, we got Jake Erlinson. He's a fifth-year player. He's a center back out of Bowling Green, and he's someone who has been improving a lot, and I feel like he can keep improving. He came from the NAIA, which is a lower division, like small schools type thing, and he transferred into Bowling Green, and he's done well in the MAC, which is a pretty good conference in soccer. I kind of have to wonder how he managed to slip through the cracks out of like all these D1 schools when he's first coming out. So my only thing I think of is he has really improved, and if he's got that work ethic and keep getting better, that's definitely something good. But at the same time, with how well he didn't really start that well, I'm not sure if he just has the talent to really affect the national team. But he's definitely someone to keep an eye on, and we've had players who you can think of that as something they've think of as not too talented but have impacted the national team positively in the past. So, yeah. Next, we got Danny Flores. He's a really talented midfielder out of Virginia Tech. He's a freshman. I covered him in a freshman video a while back. He played for USA Youth National Teams, and man, he's looked good for Virginia Tech. When they're on the ball, he's the main midfielder they want to go to. He's very good technically, and he can even pop up with some goals. He scored a game winner for them. And yeah, he's pretty clearly going to the next level, and he's a really talented player. And man, you just have to see if those talents translate to the next level, but I think they will, and he's someone I'm really excited about. So he actually played for Philadelphia Union's academy before going to Oakland Roots and playing in the USL. And Oakland put out like a statement that kind of portrayed that move as like a homecoming type thing for him, and then he moved back to the East Coast. So I'm looking into him. There's some rumors about there's like club politics or whatever around him, so he probably went to college and just gambled on himself to do well, and it seems like it's paid off. So I'm really looking forward to Danny Flores playing in the MLS. He's a great talent. I could see him in the national team in the future. Next, another goalkeeper, Elliot Hamill. He's a fourth-year player out of Duke. He's, again, solid keeper. He did very well for Duke, but again, it's tough to see how goalkeeper skills translate. I'm thinking he could be good, but again, it's pretty tough to say. Next, we got another freshman who I've covered before to talk about, and that's Luke Hill. He's a forward/attacking midfielder, depends on where he wants to play, from North Carolina State University. He had a season where it was really shortened due to injuries, but he finished strong, and when he was playing, he looked really good. In 8 games and only 5 starts, he popped up with 6 goals and an assist, and when he was playing for North Carolina State, he was the most dangerous player. I mean, he's dangerous in the box and pretty good on the ball. I could really see him being a great help to an MLS team immediately, and at his young age, he might even have a national team future. With the forward/attacking mid, like both of those positions, maybe he's got a future at a false 9, a position that's becoming a lot more popular in soccer right now, so he's definitely someone to keep an eye on, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see Charlotte try to get him. because local guy, probably not with the number 1 pick, but I could definitely see him ending up there, and he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Next, we got Kyle Holcomb. He's a 4th-year player, 2nd-team All-American. He was a great scorer. He's from Wake Forest. He's a youth international for the USA team, and he's a really good scorer. Again, he had a great season. It's tough to gauge his ceiling because he is a 4th-year player, but I could definitely see him doing very well in the MLS, and if he keeps developing, he could be a really solid player. Next guy we got is Kip Keller. He's a 3rd-year, 2nd-team All-American. He is center back out of St. Louis University. Man, another St. Louis guy. He actually comes from their academy as well. And I believe St. Louis is becoming an MLS team pretty soon. So, yes, definitely someone. St. Louis is producing a lot of talent. I think Josh Sargent's from there. So, yeah, someone definitely to keep an eye on. He's very good on the ball defensively. And, man, he looked really good. He was definitely a big part of that St. Louis team doing really well. And I've been impressed with him. I definitely see him positively affecting an MLS team early, and he's probably the defender I'm most excited, or center back I'm most excited about coming out of this draft class. Next, we got twins, actually. Anthony Markinich and Nicholas Markinich, both 4th-year players, and Anthony is a pretty good attacking left back, which is a pretty weak position for Americans, and Nicholas is a player who's picked up a ton of goals as an attacking mid. It's going to be tough to see how these guys do. They both spent some time in Chicago Academy, so you definitely see the potential there. But again, at their age, it's kind of tough to see how they're translating, and I don't really see them becoming star players, but definitely 2 good players to look out for. Next, we got Daniel Mooney. He's a 4th-year player, 3rd-team All-American, a pretty solid defender for Indiana. I definitely see him developing into a solid player and someone to keep an eye on. Center backs can peak late, but I wouldn't expect him to be in the national team for a while. But again, a pretty good player. Next, another center back, Ian Murphy. He actually played for the USA Youth Internationals a little bit. He's from Duke. He's a solid player. Again, it's tough to see him having anything in the near future for the national team, though this guy is kind of interesting because he's looked pretty good as an outside back, looking really good for Duke. He's moved to center back this year, and it's definitely a good asset to have because he is going to be a good player on the ball, probably has some good athleticism, and definitely someone to monitor. I feel like Ian Murphy could be like a bit of a hidden gem in this class. Next, we got a Ferrari Mutato. He's a 4th-year player, and out of Michigan State, he's a forward, and I mean, he's a solid player, but probably the most unremarkable guy on this list. I mean, nothing really screams star potential, or like maybe I'm missing something with his physical abilities. Again, that's the only thing I could think of, but he was a good striker, but that's kind of it. Next, we got a guy who, I was talking about with 23-ish players, and we got Matt Nacita. He's a center back coming out of the Naval Academy. I don't know what the deal is with guys coming out of the military schools. I'm assuming he won't be able to play for a while due to service, but again, I'm not sure. I wanted to mention him because he is on this list, but I don't want to go too into him because I don't feel like he'll play, and he's definitely not David Robinson. So, okay, next we got Isaiah Parker. He's a freshman, another guy who kind of went under my radar, and man, he's a winger out of St. Louis, and this guy looks really good. He actually had a much better season than I think anybody expected. He came to St. Louis, he's like an exciting winger. He was really excited about it. The coach was pretty excited about his dribbling ability, which when you think of that, you go, okay, really young winger, good dribbler, probably end product issues. No, he popped up with 3 goals, 7 assists, and was tearing up college at a really young age. And, you know, winger's a pretty deep position with the national team, but this guy is definitely someone to keep an eye on. A really excited player, and I can't wait to see him in the MLS. Isaiah Parker's going to be good. Next, we got Justin Rasmussen. He's a 5th-year left back out of Grand Canyon University. Well, left back, I'll get into that, but he picked up a ton of goals and assists and is listed here as a left back, but he was also named the WAC preseason Offensive Player of the Year. So I'm not really sure about what his position is. And as a 5th-year player, his ceiling might not be that high, but he appears to be a left-footed player, and if he's in the left back, that is a position of need, and his goal contribution was very good. Maybe not in the strongest conference, but again, that's definitely somebody to watch. And I mean, at this point, it's college soccer. How much of a difference is there between ACC and WAC? So definitely something to keep an eye on. Next, we got Luka Santos, he's a fifth-year player. It was his first full year of the starter. He's a right back out of San Diego State University, and he didn't do much going forward as a right back. And like I mentioned, it's his first full year starting, and I really don't see anything with him that really screams he should be on this list. But again, I have to assume there's something I'm missing, which, I mean, it's the MLS, so maybe I shouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt. But my stance is DeJuan Jones. He was somebody who didn't really look that special, but showed out in the MLS Combine, and now he's in contention for the U.S. men's national team, or at least the January camp spot. So, even though I'm mentioning, a couple of these guys were I don't really know why they're here, just keep that in mind and don't sleep on these players who I'm not too excited about, because I didn't get to watch too much San Diego State this year. Next, we got two goalkeepers. Patrick Schulte, he's a former USA Youth International out of St. Louis University again. And again, I mentioned before, it's tough to gauge goalkeepers' potentials, but this guy, he's 6'5" in his USA Youth International experience, so I definitely say he has potential. He's only a third year as well, so definitely someone to keep an eye on, I guess. And then we got Alex Smear out of North Carolina, another former youth international. He's a fifth-year player, but he started 4 years for North Carolina. And with previous national team experience, he's definitely someone exciting. Again, sorry, it's tough to gauge how goalkeepers will translate. And last guy to mention is Ben Bender. He actually isn't participating in this college showcase, but he was invited to be there, and I feel like that shows how good of a prospect he is. He's out of Maryland, and it's only his second year, and he was named a first-team All-American, and he is a really good prospect. He's a box-to-box midfielder with a really solid defensive ability and great creativity, and at a young age, he's already first-team All-American. I can definitely see him being a great player. You have to see how well his athleticism and on-ball abilities translate to the next level, but if it does, he could definitely be amazing and one of the top players in this draft class. So yeah, out of the Americans in this draft class that I went over, the guys who I'm probably most excited about, if I had to get 10, Simon Becher and Ben Bender as the first-team All-Americans, Isaiah Parker, Eric Centano, Danny Flores, Luke Hill as the freshman players invited, and then of the other four, I'd go Kip Keller, Kyle Holcomb, Abubakar Kamara, and Roman Celentano. Again, it's tough to gauge. All these players are invited here for a reason, and some might flame out, some might actually be really good, and hopefully all these guys will be draft eligible, because I know MLS draft eligibility is really weird. You have to get a Generation Adidas deal or have been played in college for so long, but I'm definitely hoping that all these guys can get it, and some really excited players here. So yeah, that's all I talk about with these American guys. Definitely some other players who look really good who I'm not sure about their eligibility. Jonathan Boehm out of Maryland is definitely someone to talk about. Then you got Theo Holcomb out of UNC Greensboro. He's probably going to end up drafted by Charlotte. I could see that happening. But yeah, there are a lot of really good players. I just went over the guys who I think will have USA eligibility. But yeah, that's all I'll talk about right now. See you.